We fill gaps in services in the refugee community, and we've discovered that there is a gap that we really want to work on filling. And so I want to welcome you to our first inaugural group, which means like you should put a crown on your head because you're the first group to learn about this program, and we're excited to see the possibilities of what could happen. I'm praying that the technical gods stay focused and they don't let me down with the microphone or the slideshow, because I do much better with some prompts. But our Connect and Lift group is a partnership with 4 nonprofits that all have a lot of experience in the refugee space. WelcomeNST, International Rescue Committee, Lifting Hands International, and Utah Refugee Connection. And I'm going to give a little overview. Some of you may not already know these things, but Utah Refugee Connection is set up to help individuals have opportunities to learn, serve, and give to refugees in our state. There's a lot of people that say, hey, I don't know what to do. I want to help refugees. Raise your hand if you've ever been one of those people. And our goal is to help give meaningful opportunities to learn, serve, and give. Our other goal is really, and our biggest goal is to help refugees in our community to feel safe, seen, and supported. And I think most of us would agree that we all want to feel safe, seen, and supported. And what I want you to know is you play a pivotal role in helping refugees feel safe, seen, and supported in our community. So I'm going to just go over a few abbreviated questions, but I want you to look at these questions. I'm a former teacher, so you might see some of my 3rd and 4th grade teaching skills coming out, but I just want you to look through those questions and raise your hand if you've ever had any one of those. Okay. How many of you might know all the answers to those questions? I know maybe 2 or 3 people who may. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions when it comes to refugees. So my goal is to just help you have a few insights and educate you and inform you a little bit about refugees in Utah and how you can make a difference. And then my goal is that you leave here with new information and that you're willing to share it with others. One of the biggest things you can do from this night is advocate for refugees and help dispel maybe some misunderstandings. So there's lots of confusions about terms. We have refugees, we have internally displaced people, asylum seeker, and migrants. And I think the media is really good at mixing all of those together. But we're going to talk most specifically about refugees. And this is the very technical definition of what a refugee is. It's someone with a well-founded fear of being persecuted for their race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, and is out of the country of their nationality. And they're not able, or they're so fearful they can't go back. That's very technical. It's like an attorney wrote that. Here's a little softer version. Refugees are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children with the same hopes and ambitions as us, except with a twist of fate has bound their lives to a global refugee crisis on an unprecedented scale. That kind of humanizes these individuals. Going back to this picture, what does this picture seem to communicate? Is it like, oh, we're going on a trip, it's going to be really fun? Oh, we're going to go to a new country and start a new life there? What does this picture seem to convey? Fleeing. Does it look like they're prepared? Not necessarily. So, like I said, this is the little softer version of, but how does one receive refugee status? A lot of people don't know this, but once someone feels like they've had to flee their country, they don't get to choose where they're resettled. The vetting process is very rigorous. Like, look at all the arrows in that vetting process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's at least 8 vetting the process for vetting is at least 8 different channels. And then once resettled, refugees are legally authorized to live here and are expected to work right away. They're even required to pay back their flight and their travel expenses, and after 5 years they can become citizens. One of my favorite refugees that comes in, he changed his name to John Wayne. He just wanted an American name. How many of you have learned something new already? Oh, good. Okay. So hopefully we're helping dispel some of the myths. So right now we have 123.2 million people are now displaced from their home. Technically, we have 42 million refugees worldwide. We have 8.4 million asylum seekers. Those are people that meet the same parameters as refugees, but they go to the country and then apply for status. Refugees have to get refugee status before they come into the United States. This number just boggles my mind. We have 1 in every 67 people on earth is forced to flee because of violence or persecution. That's like 1 in this group right here would be forced to flee. That's a lot of people. And these numbers change rapidly. These numbers are from 2024, and they're given by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So they're probably the most reliable source, but Danny from IRC knows those numbers can change rapidly. Anytime there's war, conflict, those numbers change. So what do refugees do when they're trying to seek safety? 75% go to bordering countries. Iran and Turkey host the most refugees. How many of you think that's surprising? Yeah, they're the top hosting countries. The US keeps like going up and down. We're not even in the top 10. And we're probably closer to 25th, especially right now because the refugee resettlement program is on pause. Many displaced people are in refugee camps waiting for their paperwork to be processed. It can take years, decades. That's heartbreaking to me. Like, how would you like waiting years to see if you can go to a secondary safe country? This number kills me every time I have to say it. What percentage of refugees get to leave refugee camps to a secondary country? 1%. It's like a lottery. Like, that is an incredible gift. But then I think about, what about the other 99%? They're living out their entirety either in a refugee camp or trying to go back to their country of origin if it's safe enough. That's a huge loss of human potential. How does one receive refugee status in the US? Like I said, did you see all those arrows, how many checkpoints they have to go through? Refugees are the most heavily vetted group of immigrants entering the US. The process typically takes 18 to 24 months, but I do know refugees in our community that have waited 10 to 15 years in a refugee camp. How many of you feel that that's a surprise to you? That's a long time to live in a camp. The vetting process in the US goes through all these different agencies. Homeland Security, FBI, DOS, DOD. I mean, there is so much that goes into vetting refugees that come to the United States. They have biographic and biometric data, fingerprints, iris scans. They have to go through a detailed face-to-face interview. Now, imagine your whole family is being interviewed based on experiences you've had in your homeland. And I often think about, I had a child that was really creative in his thinking. When he was 8 years old, he'd tell his teacher kind of some interesting things. But when they go to those interviews, everyone's story has to match up. And if it doesn't match up, they don't receive refugee status. So can you imagine the stress of having your entire family interrogated about why you're leaving a country and why you should have refugee status? I know that there are refugees that have gone through significant trauma because of those interviews. Then they have health screenings. And then I just want you to know, once refugees do come here, they contribute to our communities in remarkable ways. There's so many refugee friends I know that run businesses, that do alterations, that sell amazing food, that grow amazing food. So they really contribute in meaningful ways. So the top countries for 2024 were these: Afghanistan, Syria, Venezuela, and Ukraine. Anyone surprised by those? I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of the challenges in Afghanistan and Ukraine. How many of these refugees are kids? 40% of refugees are under 18. 51% of those kids do not have access to education. In some of those refugee camps, I remember someone tell me they were a teacher in a refugee camp and they had 400 students in their class. No books, but those kids were so eager to learn, they just did the best they could. I often think about those kids and those little faces, and again, the huge loss of human potential. Understanding refugees, I think, is a critical piece of understanding our history right now. So raise your hand if you've learned something new so far. Oh, good, good. Okay. So how many refugees are in Utah? I always put the BYU Stadium, not because I'm a big Cougar, my husband's a big Cougar fan, I went to the University of Utah, but 65 to 85,000 refugees are in Utah, and that's about how many fit in that stadium. Some have been here decades, and some have been here since January 2025. Unfortunately, the number right now, we're kind of on a holding pattern as refugee resettlement is being looked at a little more critically, and we are on a hold. The president each year determines how many refugees will be allowed into the United States, and so it can fluctuate wildly based on the president. To give you an example, during some of the years with Obama, we were up to like 100, 125,000, then we dropped down to 14,000, and then we swung back up to 65,000. That is really challenging, especially for the nonprofits and organizations helping refugees, because those wild swings mean they have to hurry and add more people, or they need to get rid of people on their payroll. It's really hard to manage those fluctuations. The only exception of refugees, we have had about 60 South Africans come with refugee resettlement programs. The reason why the number is so big, 65 to 85,000, is no one is tracking refugees. Because after 5 years, they can become citizens. And no one wants to forever be a refugee. They move, they start businesses, they are not tracked. And I think that's a real beautiful blessing, that they are able to just live their lives like everyone else. And so it's really hard to have really fine-tuned numbers. So if anyone tells you, I know the exact number, you know they don't know very much, because there's no way to track all those numbers. Okay, what countries are most refugees in Utah from? Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Burma, Venezuela, and Somalia. Most reside in Salt Lake County because that is where the most services are available. It's also where traditionally there was the most affordable housing, but because we have a little bit of a housing crunch, we're starting to see refugees move to other areas, like we have some down in Utah County, we have Cache Valley, we have Ogden, so they're spreading out a little bit more than they used to. In 2024, we had 1,871 refugees come. Granite School District currently is the district that educates the most refugees, and we partner with them. We run separately, but our share house where we collect items is actually Granite School District property, but they allow us to use that property and allow us to serve any refugees along the Wasatch Front, which is a real incredible gift for us. Some of the schools with the largest populations report 30 different languages. How many of you have ever taught school? either as a volunteer, how would you like to have that many languages like in a classroom? That would be so challenging. Overall, the highest refugee populations in Utah are the Sudanese, South Sudanese, Congolese, Somalis, Iraqis, Afghans, and Burmese. So how many of you feel a little more educated about refugees in Utah? Good, okay. So when they arrive, they're assigned to the US in Utah and they've passed all the screenings. Sometimes if they say they have family somewhere, that request is honored, but a lot of times they don't get to choose. The country, the state. Can you imagine like all of a sudden going, oh, I'm going to the United States, Utah? What's Utah? You know, I kind of wonder what sometimes they think before they come. When they're here, they have all the legal paperwork and they're expected to start working as soon as possible, paying back the cost of travel. That one always surprises people. And amazing resettlement agencies are usually who greet them at the airport and help them set up, which is our partner here, International Rescue Committee in Salt Lake, is who has typically been doing that. And Lifting Hands International has been amazing in helping set up apartments. So when they first arrive, these resettlement agencies are really remarkable in helping them get on their feet. When I first started about 10 years ago, refugee resettlement case management would be anywhere from 12 months to 24 months, and that was still short. Do you know what it is now? Because of federal funding cuts, most of the resettlement agencies are like 90 days, 6 months. How many of you have ever lived in a foreign country? How well versed were you after like 90 days and 6 months? That is hard. And imagine a new culture. You've maybe been living in a refugee camp. You've never used a thermostat. I mean, there's so many new things. So one of the things that has really changed since January is refugee resettlement. The case management has gone from this to this. And this is why you're here. It used to be that federal funding made it possible for case managers to be able to do a job really pretty well. And now it's basically, we're going to get you in the house, we're going to get you going, but we just don't have the funding or the manpower to do it. And they're doing the best they can in the situation. But here's where you guys come into play. You can make a difference in the lives of these refugees. You can help the organizations that are trying to make sure this gap of time is filled with meaningful people that can make a difference. So this is one of my favorite quotes. It's by Michael Lewis, and it says, above all, recognize that if you've had success, you've also had luck. And with luck comes obligation. You owe a debt, and not just to your gods, you owe a debt to the unlucky. I feel like I have been so lucky, and I owe a debt to the people that are unlucky. And refugees are simply the most unlucky people because of where they were born. They didn't have a choice. And so tonight, I want you to think about what could you do to turn your success and your luck into doing something to help the unlucky. So because of this new change in refugee resettlement, where no new refugees are coming in, and the case management has been shrunk, we're realizing there's a lot of families that need some extra love and guidance and some community support. And Utah is well known for stepping in and filling gaps and making a difference in a meaningful way. And so several months ago, WelcomeNST, IRC, Lifting Hands International, and Utah Refugee Connection started conspiring to figure out what can we do to make it so these families who we love and adore have the success we want them to have when there are so few hands that are able to help them with federal dollars. So regardless of funding, we want these refugees to feel safe, seen, and supported. So we're coming together, Utah Refugee Connection and Lifting Hands, to help this effort to make a difference for refugees. And I'm going to introduce Danny, but first I'm going to play a video. And this is where we cross our fingers that the gods of technology come through for us. It's 3 minutes, because sometimes when you say a video, they're like, oh no, how long is the video? So as a teacher, I learned I better say how long.
There is no one face for a refugee. Refugees come from across the world. And remember, it can happen to any one of us. You're watching a moment that people forced to flee their homes because of war and conflict arrive in the United States. Some are reuniting with loved ones. Others are being welcomed by a new community. Many arrive alone. They need to start a new chapter in their lives, one supported by the International Rescue Committee. This is a chapter that is full of urgent barriers to overcome. Some may arrive scared and full of uncertainty. How will they learn English, get food, and income in a safe place to sleep? From day one, the IRC is there to connect people with food and clothing. Caseworkers support English classes and cultural orientation, enrolling children in school and the search for work.
I'm going to need a volunteer at this time that wants to do a mock interview with me.
And as months turn to years, the IRC is still there to support refugees to thrive in their new homes. A home where you can start your own business.
It's not just serving the food, it's creating the community.
Or even become a citizen.
I want to thank the government of the United States of America for giving me a home and a new home.
I know this story because I've lived it. My name is Faith Akobi Cooper, and after escaping the civil war in Liberia, my family came to the United States as refugees. Now I am part of IRC's diverse team. Many of us former refugees ourselves, joined by volunteers and supporters across America. For years, we slept in refugee camps. We slept under tents, rain or shine. And the first thing we desired was a safe place to stay. With your support, we work together to create a positive new chapter in the lives of refugees and asylum seekers, wherever their stories may take them next.
All right, I'm going to turn the time over to Danny because I want him as the director. The technical gods failed me. I'll fix it, but I'm going to let Danny tell a little bit about his role at IRC and some of these changes that he's seen and how he's hoping that this program is going to work. And I'll fix my computer while you're doing that.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks everybody for being here. When I talked to our staff this morning, I said, you know, I'd be thrilled if 3 or 4 people show up. And here we have a room full of people who are interested in learning more about refugees and how you can help. In January, we received a pause in the federal refugee resettlement program. And with that, so what that meant is that no new refugees were going to be allowed in the United States. And it was supposed to be about a 90-day pause. It was significantly longer than that. And so as an organization, we were wondering, okay, what happens if for some reason we don't exist anymore? What happens to the 300, 400 plus clients that we have? Like what happens to them? And so we kind of panicked a little bit at the thought that our clients who are incredible people, and our clients just need a little bit of support at the beginning of the refugee resettlement process, and we help empower them, and then they thrive in our communities. But without us, like at the beginning, what would happen to them? So we reached out to Lifting Hands International, who are incredible. If you haven't heard of Lifting Hands International, you have to talk to Ann Perkins. Her name is easy to remember if you like Parks and Rec. So yeah, sorry. But we reached out and we said, hey, if we got a list of our most vulnerable clients, the ones who need kind of more support, could you help with some volunteers to make sure that they at least have somebody to talk to or somebody they can reach out to if for some reason our organization ceased to exist? And so very quickly we pivoted what we were focusing on. So we stopped focusing on new arrivals and we focused on how can we help the refugees who are already here and who are the most vulnerable. And we came up with this mentorship program. And we assigned a volunteer to a family, and it has been an incredible program. Our case managers still work closely with these families, but if something were to happen to us, we know that the most vulnerable of our clients are being taken care of because we have the volunteers from Lifting Hands International. And so that is why we are here today. And we'll have question and answers later, so I don't want to take too much time. I want to have WelcomeNST come up here and talk about their role. But I have seen the community really come together to step up and serve refugees. Utah is a welcoming place. I know sometimes in the news, it feels like our country isn't as welcoming anymore. But I can tell you that Utah still is. And Utah's different. And Utah's special. And it's because of people like you. So thank you for being here today. And then we're gonna be happy to answer questions at the end.
Okay, so through the years, Utah Refugee Connection has worked with IRC, we've worked with Lifting Hands International, and a couple of years ago I met Liz. And Liz came to visit us out of the blue, and she was, at the time, I hope I remember correctly, helping Ukrainian families find host families to come to the United States. And we didn't really have like an alignment exactly in what we were doing, but I was so interested in what they were doing. They're operating out of Boston, and actually, instead of a resettlement agency taking on responsibility to case manage a family, teams, neighborhood support teams were taking on case managing families. And through the years, we've stayed in touch, and then all of a sudden, she's like, well, we're pivoting. Because there are not new arrivals, we're pivoting as well. And I'm like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, this synergy just started to happen of how we could collaborate to help Danny, Lifting Hands. And so I want to welcome Liz. Do you want me to play your video first? Okay, come on up and you explain it. And we get Liz clear from Boston, right?
I wasn't going to share that because I don't want to be the outsider, but thanks for outing me. Like, this is kidding. It's okay.
It shows how much she cares about.
Okay, right. That's true. So this is really lovely. I am so grateful to be here, and I actually come to Utah a lot, even though I'm not from here. I have kids at BYU, and it's lots of partners out here, like awesome Amy and Danny. So anyway, so I wanted to kind of just start, just to get a sense of who's actually in this audience before, then I'll get into what WelcomeNST's been doing. So how many of you have actually been part of, kind of active in helping a family, a newly arrived family, kind of restart? So a good amount, that's about a third of the people here. And for the other folks, just like Richard, say out loud, what brought you here tonight? Besides maybe that you love Amy. Anyone? Go ahead.
There's an article about you.
Oh, the Desert News article? Oh, really? Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. They did a really nice job on that article. Anyone else?
Feeling of helplessness and feel like we need to do something.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's beautiful.
Desire to get educated and see what the needs are and what I can do.
Yeah. Awesome.
I actually for a refugee too, so after I've been here for like more than 10 years, and now it's the time for me to go back to school and to get more about the education, so I feel like one last step I can do something for my neighbor or for my community. So for now I involved with the Women of the War and mentor one of my lady from Afghanistan, and also I be a mentor for her and also a messenger for my community so that I can share all the organization that I know more about the detail, like what is the event and where is, so that they can be more expose their stuff and know more about the opportunity for their self and for their kid in the future.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that.
I spent some time in a refugee camp as a sister in Greece, and besides how that side of things, I went to the restroom, and so I was interested in this side of things to see what happens and so on. I'm
Actually, good too. Which refugee camp in Greece?
outside of Athens.
In Afida? Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, that's an awesome place. All right, anybody else over here? I just have this, this privilege of speaking to a lot of groups of community members, and I have to tell you, this is the thing that keeps me alive, that keeps me going, is meeting people like you. I shouldn't say alive, keeps my spirit alive. I just constantly meet people. So Danny said, and I think something that's so true, is that it does feel like our country is so divided, that there's so much focus on what people aren't, or what they are, how they're different, and how they don't see things the same. And I agree with Danny, and I would add that I have seen this phenomenon all over the country. There are good people everywhere that are asking, what can I do? What can I do right now? How can I add good to this messy moment that we're in as a country, right? And these are people that are willing to step up, show up for an hour-long event at night when I'm sure, nobody said that they came because they were bored and they didn't have anything to do. So I'm so grateful, and it really is the great privilege of my life to meet people like you. So I mean that. So WelcomeNST, our history is brief. It's just been 4 years. It's like dog years, so I think it's more like 40. But we are, as Amy explained, our history as a country. When somebody is approved to come to the U.S., historically they are assigned to a refugee resettlement agency like IRC, and that has been, as Amy mentioned, very. It's been very highly variable in terms of what that means and how it works, for lots of reasons. So over the last 4 years, there's been kind of a second option, and Amy kind of alluded to this as well, where families can get assigned also to a private group of citizens. So a private group of citizens can actually welcome a family directly from another country. which is awesome, right? So, the purpose of that really has been to increase the capacity of our country to welcome. It's not been to replace the system. It's been to grow it, right? To grow our ability to welcome more people in the context of this incredibly growing emergency refugee crisis we've got across the globe. So that's kind of the context. So WelcomeNST has been kind of started at the forefront of that in 2021 in the context of the Afghan evacuation, and really has been at the forefront of every pathway that has been opened specifically for private citizens to be able to welcome refugees into their neighborhoods. So we do that. I'll say that our mission is to unleash the power of community to offer refuge. And what we have found, right now we have NSTs in 37 states. Utah is second only in terms of numbers to Massachusetts, because that's where we started. So to your point, Danny, I would 100% agree. Utah is a very special place. Utah is kind of like made for this, right? Neighborhoods that are tight, communities that know each other, a history of service and welcoming. It's very much kind of prepared to welcome. I wanted to read a quote from Pope Leo. He says, this is a recent quote, he says, "The communities that welcome migrants and refugees can be a living witness of a society where the dignity of all as children of God is recognized, and in which all are brothers and sisters, part of the same family." And I love that idea of this witness when we do open our hearts and homes. I will say also, and those of you who have been part of this process will I think, agree, the work of welcoming a family that has to start everything all over again is not easy. It's not easy to do, but it is work that changes you. You had mentioned that you spent time at the Athena refugee camp in Greece. My family spent a lot of time there, starting in 2016 and over the next few years. We made several trips back there to help with different projects. And those people changed my life. It changed my whole family. We have never been the same, just knowing them and understanding their struggle and their stories. And to Amy's part, understanding our luck and feeling this kind of debt that we needed to repay. So our motto, as I said, is to unleash the power of community to offer refuge to refugees and immigrants. I'll talk a little bit about what an NST is in words, and then we'll play the video, since sometimes it's just easier to watch it. So an NST really is a group of neighbors, right? Neighborhood support team literally is a group of neighbors. Usually it starts with one or two people. Usually it starts with one person who's like, I'm gonna rope my friends into this. It's somebody that raises their hand and says, yeah, I can make room in my busy life, in my community where, there's so much going on, I can make room in my life for a family. And I can engage my neighbors or my church members or my workout group or my friend group or whatever that is to join me. We like I said, we have one or two team leads as part of an NST, and then generally they bring in friends and community members, and we train. We have trainings, and those leads assign roles. We have a structure, right? A recommended structure. So someone's in charge of education, someone's in charge of healthcare, someone's in charge of transportation, right? So the idea is that not only the work, but also the blessing of the relationship is spread across a broad cross-section of people. It also has the byproduct of bringing neighbors together in a different way for the good of someone else, to serve a neighbor in need. I will tell you, and I think that many of you can appreciate the fact that if you had to choose who's more impacted by that collective effort, it would actually be hard to choose. Like, it's definitely game-changing for the refugee family. I mean, this is intergenerational impact, right? You come to a new country, is an intergenerational change, right? That's huge. As well, I would say that for the community that embraces that family, those like my family, right? The way that changes your heart, the way that changes the way you view the world and your place in it, also is intergenerational change. So it's kind of a win-win. And as a person of faith, for me personally, that's how I know that this is God's work, because you can see that impact across the board. So for that, let's go ahead and share that, and then we'll talk about what people can do.
Nobody wants to leave their home, their family, their livelihood, their culture, everything behind, and there really has to be a deeply big reason to do this, to uproot your family and leave. The reason we decided to host this family and to help this family is because, you know, sitting here in my comfortable home and my community and my job and my family and food on my table, I just feel like it's something that we're called to do. To see the number of people that have stepped up, and, you know, we have a lawyer on our team, we have a doctor, we have, you know, people with full professions that have just decided to jump in. There's so much prep that's being done. You know, we have to get the apartment ready, we have to, you know, line up all the logistics, and the girls are coming, you know, these little girls, and, you know, I'm picking clothes out for them and toys, so sometimes you get bogged down with the task list, but then I start to think about, like, we're welcoming these people into our life, you know, this family is coming, and they're going to be part of our family, and they're going to be extended family, and they're going to be our friends, and we're all really excited to go to the airport and welcome them here. We're excited! So when we went to the airport to welcome the family, you know, we were all standing there and holding our signs and our balloons, and I looked around and I was like, it just made me really emotional to see this group of people who a lot of us didn't know each other 6 weeks ago, and here we were welcoming this family. You know, we were all like, we were anticipating, we were all staring in one direction, and then they came, and, you know, we saw her start to cry, and I started crying, and we all started to cry. It was just really powerful. It's just been beautiful to watch people in our community come together and welcome a new family into our community. Nothing has changed my life and our family's life more than this experience. My heart is exponentially larger. I have more family members, I have more friends. There's just so much good that comes out of it.
Okay, so I'm gonna let, no, you, whoops. They almost smiled on me the whole time. What's a little bit different about what we're doing is that you don't have to start from the very beginning. You don't have to find the apartment. You don't have to welcome at the airport. But what we're hoping to do is IRC is going to do a soft handoff of these families to WelcomeNST, and then our neighborhood support teams are going to find ways to continue the process of helping these families find refuge in our communities. And so I am so biased about my feelings about working in the refugee space. I feel like frequently I've wanted to let my friends and neighbors know how much I have gleaned from my experience, but you can't glean that until you're in it. And you know, we have our cultural nights quarterly, which are awesome, and you're welcome to come to those anytime, but there's nothing like sitting knee to knee with a family and understanding where they've come from and learning from them and offering them safety and harnessing your neighbors and friends to make the world a better place for them. So what we're looking for are, in this group, I'm hoping we can come up with maybe at least 3 to 5 team leads that really want to form a group of friends. It can be work associates, it can be neighbors, it could be a congregation, it could be a variety of different people, and come together to offer support to these families who no longer can have case management as long. So I think from here, I think we want to open it up to questions, but also this is the QR code, and I'll try and get it back on the screen, to if you want to start with as a lead and you want to keep engaged, take this and scan this QR code. You can think about it for a while and talk to maybe your spouse or whoever, and make sure you feel like it's something that's for you. And then I would love to have everyone that's kind of on this team, we welcome questions, because there's got to be some questions out there. So I'm going to pass these.
We also have physical, if you're not a QR code kind of girl or boy, that sounded rude. You can fill out something on paper to Timothy. We have those somewhere? That are physical applications.
on the back if you want to.
We have printouts, right? Yeah, we've got printouts. So if you feel like doing a physical version, you can do that too.
Okay, anyone have questions? And if someone does have a question, you repeat it so if they didn't hear. Raise your hand if you have questions.
I want you guys to.
Caroline,
Oh, so this is a question that I know the answer to, but I want you to talk about it. Okay. Talk about what financial obligations a support team would have.
you know the answer. Have you been part of this work?
Can we rephrase your question?
Yeah. So such a good question. What are the financial obligations of the NST in this scenario? Typically, an NST has to raise money, not for WelcomeNST, but for to help the family restart. And in this case, there is no money that needs to be raised, and that's actually not needed at this point. So it's always needed. It's not part of the responsibility of the NST to raise money.